Very good morning. Thank you so much for finding time to be with us today. This is Kenya and Africa at a glance, where we get to bring you the latest news as we go through the newspapers in Kenya and indeed across Africa. Africa at a glance, it is a pleasure to have you on board this morning. Before I bring in my panelists, I'd like to just take us through quickly the headlines this morning on Kenya's leading newspapers, and we will start with the Daily Nation. And on the Daily Nation, the main headline, how Raila made up with Jonjo. The story is on page 6 and 7 of the Daily Nation, and just down there is OKA headed for collapse. Its leaders appear to lean towards either the DP, Ruto, or Raila Odinga's camp. So you'll find that on page 4. Parents faced with fees, fines, a burden. You'll find that on the back page of the Daily Nation. And then we move on to, now just beside that, while we will fight a coalition's bill to the end, DP Ruto, he argues that section on the registration of the coalition political parties is designed to help ODM leader Raila Odinga in the presidential race. The story is on page 5. Fossil enthusiast inside Leakey's search for Ali Man. Richard Leakey came from a family deeply involved in the search for clues on Ali Man. It was a hobby that turned into a career. You'll find that on page 12 of the Daily Nation. And families despair as bodies of kin still trapped in mine. And that is on page 3. And then we turn our attention to the Standard newspaper. And the main headline on the Standard newspaper this morning is that Raila Ruto sweet deals in both hands. ODM leader and deputy president pledged to boost economy and fight poverty if elected in August, but take a swipe at each other's economic models as battle lines for State House race is drawn. You'll find that on page 6 and 7 of the Standard newspaper. Manhunt on Fulamu attackers who killed 6. On page 3, MP set for fresh showdown on bill, and electricity tariffs up despite pledge. That is on business page. On page 32, and Cameroon conflict looms over AFCON, and I think we shall look at that when we will be looking at the rest of the African stories. And a tough school year for parents and learners as cost and fees go up. That is on page 4 on the Standard newspaper. And then we turn our attention now to the Star newspaper. And the main headline on the Star newspaper, state to cut varsity's funding, CS Yatani. I don't know if that is something that, a lot of universities, not students, will appreciate at this point. You'll find that on page 4 and 5 on the Star newspaper. The deep connection between Leakey and Jonjo. You'll find that on page 2. And the main pictorial, parents at a bookshop shopping for their kids as they prepare for the third term, and no reprieve for parents as they made to buy books in third term. I don't know, when did we start buying textbooks in third term? I don't understand. Maybe because of the new curriculum, but apparently that is becoming a little bit hard on the parents there. Ruto in 8 county campaign bleeds in first week of poll year. You'll find that on page 7. Deadly sand mining lures men, women, and children. That is on page 3. So that is what we have on the leading newspapers this morning. We are joined by Samuel Tawish from Nairobi. Tawish, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning indeed to you, Miriam Ogutu, from, of course, our headquarters. Good morning to my brother, Dan Sean Wesonga, as well as Sharon Gitonga, and all our viewers watching this program in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world. My great pleasure to join you on this program. Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning to you. Nice to have you. And we also do have Daniel Songa, also a correspondent from Nairobi. Daniel Songa, nice to see you, and a very good morning to you.
Yes, a very good morning, Miriam Ogutu at our headquarters in Nairobi. Good morning to my good brother, Tarwish Olisasina. Good morning to Sharon Gitonga, our viewers here in Nairobi, and the rest of Africa and the rest of the globe who are watching us this morning. It is indeed also my pleasure to be on the conversation this morning.
Okay, nice to have you too, and thank you. And we do also have, last but not least, Sharon Gitonga, our correspondent from Nairobi, but I doubt she's in Nairobi yet. She'll tell us. Sharon Gitonga, very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you, Miriam, from our headquarters in Nairobi, and my colleague panelists, Samuel Tawish and Daniel Wesonga, and to all our viewers who are watching us in Kenya, Africa, and the entire globe. Indeed, it is a pleasure to be part of this show. I'm actually on my way. I think I should be leaving in the next 1 hour or so, so I might not be able to make it through the entire show, but I'll still be with you. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Nevertheless, nice to have you. So let's just go to the story that I see. On Daily Nation is one Kenya Alliance headed for collapse. That is on page 4 before we get to the party's bill that now Ruto says is set to benefit opposition leader Raila Odinga in the next upcoming elections. And touted as the third political force at conception, the One Kenya Alliance, OKA, faces imminent collapse as its leaders appear to lead towards Deputy President William Ruto or Orange Democratic Movement leader Raila Odinga. Suspicion has deepened in the alliance following reports of the DP talking to a Mani National Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi and his Ford Kenya colleague in an effort to form a coalition ahead of the elections. The other OKA bosses, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and Gideon Moi of KANU, appear to lean towards Mr. Odinga, who is backed by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Wiper and KANU have formal working agreements with President Kenyatta's Jubilee Party. So I think this is something that we've been predicting, we've been saying, and it was just a matter of time. So now the Daily Nation is saying One Kenya Alliance faces imminent collapse. First of all, was it ever really there to start with, Samuel Tawish? Was this just a show, or were they ever serious, really?
Thank you so much, Miriam, and thank you for that question. And I think from the word go, we've always had this speculation, and they say when there's too much speculation, there must be some truth in it. And so many people, and especially the political pundits, had always seen this One Kenya Alliance and more so the principles that formed it as people who are not honest enough. Because again, the political conversation in the country today is undeniably between the Raila Amolo Odinga axis and on the other hand, the Deputy President William Ruto. And anyone who purports to want to upset that status quo will only but be living in denial. And I think we are somehow being vindicated as we speak now, because again, there's a lot of suspicion and rivalry going on in the One Kenya Alliance. There's that sense of entitlement by almost each of the principles that form the One Kenya Alliance. Each of them feels like they must really fly the presidential flag of the One Kenya Alliance. But you and I understand, even the audience who are watching this program this morning, Miriam, understanding that we can only but have one presidential candidate in any given formation at any given time. We are only but going to have one president, Miriam, come the 2022 August general election, that is after the general election. So when you have each Tom, Dick, and Harry coming out and saying they must be on the ballot, that their names must be on the ballot, that they are going to the final lap, Miriam, I said they're just doing this for formality purpose, but they are not going to make any of course, they're not going to make any impact in as far as upsetting the current status quo that we have. We all understand that the two-horse race is between Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto, and the likes of Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Kalonzo Musyoka, Gideon Moi, and maybe any other hopeful in as far as the presidential contest is concerned, must either choose to work with either Raila Odinga or Deputy President William Ruto. There's no any other choice in between, Miriam, if it is not between the two. Or they can as well choose to have their names on the ballot, but by the end of the day, the votes will be counted. And I really would want to see how many votes will be counted in the name of Musalia Mudavadi if he insists that he has to go up to the final lap, like he did in 2013, Miriam. We all understand. He stood his guns. In fact, he even left ODM, formed his own party, went up to the final lap. He ended up getting a paltry 480,000, if I'm not very wrong. Kalonzo Musyoka of the Wiper Party has also tried this in the past. You remember in 2007, these are people who know the political terrain. They know the presidential contest and what it really takes to be able to mount a very serious and formidable political machinery in as far as presidential elections are concerned. So I'm very happy that finally the reality is dawning. and they are getting to understand that they must really choose as to whether to work with the Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. We want to see them make that decision first of all, then the conversation will take from there. If they go the Ruto way or Raila way, then we'll pick the conversation from there. But ultimately, these guys are going to split. They are going to either support these two presidential candidates.
Okay, thank you so much, Samuel Tawish. Daniel Wasonga, Tawish is saying finally, the reality has dawned on them. But a lot of Kenyans will argue the minute they could not even agree on who will be the flag bearer of that coalition that is not even formal yet, that was the time that perhaps, they knew they had a problem to deal with.
Yes, thank you so much, Miriam Ogutu. And One Kenya Alliance, I'll call it a caricature because, these are coalition which is formed up with individuals whose political fortunes are actually plummeting, in as much as some could be still having some grip over their strongholds, but still generally, these are individuals who cannot culminate into something like presidency. Because Miriam, when you look at presidency, no one just wakes up from the trenches and becomes a president of a republic, and especially a country like Kenya, which has been having a very stable leadership since the independence in 1963. So for one to be a president in Kenya, we've seen from history, and history should always be our basis when we look at who has the prospects of being a president. Number one, Miriam, one needs to have the capacity in terms of financial muscle power. And when you look at One Kenya Alliance, the only person who can be able to put together greater machinery to be able to move around every corner of this country and campaign to be president is one Gideon Kipsiele Moi. And number two, when you look at also for one to be president in Kenya, Miriam, you need some vote basket for you to be able to base on. And when you look at One Kenya Alliance, as it is at the moment, only Kalonzo Musyoka has a considerable vote basket in Ukambani. But also, when you look at it quite beneath the veneer, you realize that Charity Ngilu, Kivuta Kibwana, and Alfred Ntua are actually bustling these vote basket away from him. And when you look at the other core principles, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, and Gideon Moi, they do not have any definite vote basket that they will brag off. When you look at Moses Wetangula in immediately after the 2013 general elections, when we had a by-election in Bungoma, not 2013 general election, when Muskari Kombo filed a petition to contest his election as the senator of Bungoma, were it not for ODM and Wiper and NC to come together and marshal their forces, he will not have been re-elected. When you look at Musalia Mudavadi, the governor is from ODM, Raila Odinga's party. The MCA is from ODM, Raila Odinga's party. His MP, Mr. Aseka, is ANC, but him still is saying Raila Odinga is the best man for the presidency. When you look at Gideon Moi, who is my party leader as well, he does not have the control of Rift Valley as it is currently because William Ruto has run away with it. So to me, I believe these One Kenya Alliance principles do not have all the capacity that they require to win a presidential election. If one has the money like Gideon Moi has, he lacks the vote basket that could take him to presidency. If one has the vote basket like Kalonzo Musyoka has, he lacks the money to run a presidential campaign. Or others like Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula, they lack both the money and the vote basket to be able to make them presidents. So to me, I think they are gonna choose a side, whether to go with William Ruto or Raila Odinga, but it will happen sooner than expected. Maybe by March or mid-April, we will have known how this is gonna be, the formation is gonna come out, because we anticipate also that the political parties amendment bill is gonna sail through before February, so that the process of coalition formation is done before April of this year, and we are able to know the way forward. But as it is, Miriam, One Kenya Alliance was a lame duck from the beginning, and it's going nowhere. We anticipate that it's gonna crumble down sooner than expected. And that is the fate of One Kenya Alliance. No one is going to take One Kenya Alliance down. It's going to crumble naturally by itself because, one, they lack the capacity to win the presidency. Two, they do not have even the support of the Kenyans. And if they would come together and go all the way to the ballot, then garnering 1 million votes will actually be a try for them. But maximum One Kenya Alliance can get is 700,000 votes. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. And Sharon, we do understand that one of the key things that even made NASA to break up is because, the other leaders who are now in One Kenya Alliance had accused Mr. Raila Odinga on insisting on running for another term, while they had agreed that, they would support him for the last elections. That didn't work out. Raila was not elected, and Raila has maintained, I have never been elected, as a president in this country. So you cannot say that I can't, give it another shot. But these leaders had said, you know what? That was the agreement. So now you're supposed to support, one of us. And of course, that has not been the case. So now it appears they have to go back and work with Raila Odinga, despite of what they've been saying, in this public arena. So maybe this could be a good lesson for politicians. Just perhaps sometimes watch and wait, because you really never know. So they might be forced to eat back those words and see how they can work with either with the deputy president or opposition leader Raila Odinga. Will this be because recently a lot of their key allies, especially for Mr. Wetangula and Mr. Even Musyoka himself and Mudavadi have left and have shown bias towards joining either of these, camps, DPs or Raila's camp. So there seems to have been weakened in terms of the numbers that perhaps they would use to go and, have bring to the table and try to see what they can, how they can position themselves in these coalitions. So by them joining either, is it because they don't have any other choice, or it's just a matter of convenience and political preservation?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And of course, I share the same sentiments that have been said previously by my colleague panelist. And at this point, it is clear that the OCA is definitely at the blink and the verge of collapse. And I believe that disintegration is actually going to be, the beginning. Will actually begin the moment they will declare a flag bearer, because they have all been firm on about them actually going to the ballot. I think recently I was watching on Citizen where they were very firm by saying that they are all actually going to be at the ballot box, and remembering that we're already in January, they are yet to, even officially declare their flag bearer, because how is this actually going to pan out, whereby each and every candidate in OCA want to run for the presidential? And I think for Musalia, he has been very indecisive, and what he's actually suffering, he's now the negative ripple effect is what is actually coming out right now. When you look at what happened in Buhungu Stadium, you can now clearly say that the coalition, is now leaning on a Western, and there's a specific voice. People have in signs of time and slowly gaining the momentum and warming up the tune of Umoja. So the least I think he would have done is to just show up. I think yesterday Ayub was the former prime minister, and he was heard publicly saying politically he actually works with OCA. So working with the deputy president is actually going to lower any of their chances, especially to survive politically, as opposed to working with their best fitted traditional ally, and that is the former prime minister, even for their future political negotiations. So I've always said here that despite the deficit of trust and resources, because I believe that was one of the major reasons that led to their split up. If you listen keenly to their ideologies and manifestos, is that they speak the common language is unity, and I think that is where the rubber hits the ground. So it is a two-horse race, just like my colleague panelists have said here before, and any other force is going to be a mirage. So for Oka, it is clear that this center is not going to hold, but it's a wait and see. Let's also wait and see if they are going to perhaps announce their flag bearer, given that it is in January. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we shall be here waiting to see how that will pan out for Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, Gideon Moi, as well as Moses Wetangula. All right, now let's turn our attention on page 5 of the Daily Nation. And Deputy President William Ruto yesterday maintained that his camp will fight the party's bill to the end. He argued that the section of the registration of coalition political parties is designed to help ODM leader Raila Odinga in the presidential race. The DP's declaration raises the stakes ahead of 3-day special sittings of the National Assembly that begins tomorrow to consider the Political Parties Amendment Bill 2021, which his side seeks to sabotage. Speaking in Trans Nzoia County, where he took his presidential campaign, the DP told lawmakers that the contentious bill is not important and they should not fall into the trap of people he called political conmen. MPs could not be disturbed by passing the bill by people who cannot be trusted, dishonest characters who poses as leaders, which is the only problem we have in this country. Let them not disturb us with the law. We want to form a government of trusted people. I mean, those are very nice words there, Samuel Tawish. Deputy President is using, he's saying, the people who are pushing for this bill, he's calling them, characters you cannot trust, and leaders who are just out there to disturb the peace of Kenyans, and they're dishonest, and they're not. And conmen, they're posing as leaders. So I'm assuming he's referring to his boss there, President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Thank you so much, Miriam. And I think for avoidance of doubt, if there's any person or politician in this country who has epitomized disloyalty and untrustworthiness, it's Deputy President William Ruto. And I didn't quite expect that the same could be coming from him, pointing fingers at other politicians being disloyal or disrespectful or even being untrustworthy, because he's one man who's really played that show very, very well. But away from that, Miriam, the issue of legislation is solely in the hands of legislators, and that cannot be canvassed, say, in political rallies or in funerals. They will have to come and argue their case on the floor of the House. And if they got numbers, because Kenya being a democracy that it is, of course, this bill will be coming for third reading, I understand, tomorrow. And if Deputy President William Ruto says he has numbers as he has purported previously, we will want to see how the same is going to translate when it comes to the debate on that particular bill and consequent passage or defeat of it, depending on which side is going really to pull more strings. But going to the public rallies and trying to castigate all this, I think, is just trying to politicize a very legitimate process of parliament, a legitimate process that is always undertaken by legislators. And if Deputy President William Ruto thinks that this is not the right bill, and that he can rally his supporters, especially those in the floor of the House, the legislators, to oppose it, we will want to see how these numbers are going to be translated. And Miriam, I think even in the past, if you are to look into the past and what has been happening, indeed, Deputy President William Ruto has always argued that he has the numbers. But whenever these debates come to the floor of the House, he has always but been defeated. You remember about the Waititu case, the former governor for Kiambu. You remember about the former governor for Nairobi, Mike Mbuvi Sonko. You remember what happened to Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru during the impeachment motions. And recently, Miriam, you've seen, of course, the same coalition bill that is being discussed. Of course, twice, the first, second reading, Deputy President William Ruto has not been able really to show up the numbers that he's all along been posturing with. So we want to see during this third reading, what kind of magic or a secret bullet is he going really to pull to upset what appears to be an almost smooth sailing for this particular bill. When you look on the other side of the political divide, those politicians who support former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and of course, Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper, and other politicians in the country, they are all supporting this particular bill. Then you ask yourself this question, Miriam. Can it be that all these people are wrong? It is only Deputy President William Ruto who is right? Is it that it's only Deputy President William Ruto who is seeing the wrong in this bill and not any other Kenyan or not any other senior politician in this country? So we really want to see how they're going to argue their case on the floor of the House. Of course, they have taken that vow that in case it does sail in Parliament, then they are ready and they are assembling their arsenals to go and challenge the same in the courts. We want to see how this is going to pan out. But I can assure you, Miriam, I'm almost confident that the Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta led axis is going to have a field day when that bill will be tabled for third reading tomorrow. I submit, Miriam.
All right, very well, thank you. Now, yesterday, Dr. Ruto scolded their opponents for bragging about their numerical strength in the National Assembly, saying his team now has about over 138 members of parliament who are ready to deal with them. Just the other day in parliament, we had 138 MPs, and if we add to senators, we have 160, and there is no other political party that has such numbers. And it is the only one that unites Kenyans. Wesonga, what's your response to that?
Thank you so much, Miriam. And of course, as someone who has been trained in the financial sector and also information technology, I believe numbers don't lie. You know, if William Ruto says that he has the numbers and then these numbers do not come through for him whenever the call beckons, then these numbers are useless, because since time immemorial, when we had this wedge between the president and his deputy, the deputy president has always been a casualty when it comes to numbers in parliament. You remember when they ejected Aden Duale from his majority leader position, these numbers never came for William Ruto. When they ejected Kipchumba Murkomen from the Senate and Susan Kihika, these numbers never came through for William Ruto. When they ejected Benjamin Washiali and many more others, even in the committees, parliamentary committees, these numbers never came through for William Ruto. But in a photo session on the stairs of Karen Mansionette, he will always brag of 200 MPs, 150 MPs coming in solidarity for him. But when it comes to voting in parliament, only a paltry number shows up. So therefore, he should stop this chest thumping and bravado that he's showing to Kenyans. You know, let the numbers speak for him in parliament, and we will be able to consider and say, truly William Ruto has the numbers. Let's just go back. This is a topic that perhaps these are a bill that is already in debate in parliament, and the numbers have already shown that the Azimio la Umoja movement has already won over 95% of the votes that were cast in the parliament. And I believe even as the parliament resumes on Wednesday, we're not going to have any maybe difference so much in the voting pattern. And if anything has to happen, Miriam, I believe that Azimio la Umoja is going to garner more numbers. Because you remember when the first clause, voting for the first clause came in parliament, the Tangatanga Brigade won the proposal by the MP for Tigania Mugambi. They won because by that time, the Azimio la Umoja members of parliament had not come to parliament. But as soon as they came into parliament, there is no any single clause that these particular hornbills and noisemakers won in parliament. So to me, I think nothing is going to change. William Ruto should stop beating his chest and saying that UDA is a new kid on the block with 160 or 138 members of parliament. If UDA is a new party on the block, and of course we know all these members of he's bragging about are all from the Jubilee Alliance Party, the Jubilee Party, or rather, then we all can say that also these are around 160 members who are voting for the for the proposals for the Azimio la Umoja party. And of course, actually, this is the reason why they're in parliament. They want the law to allow them to form a coalition party. So if that is the case, then going to the next year's general election, we're going to have two major parties which are competing one another. On one side, we're going to have UDA or maybe the Tangatanga movement. On the other party, on the other side, we're going to have Azimio la Umoja party. And in terms of numbers, UDA or the Tangatanga movement is going to have the 138 members they're bragging about. Azimio la Umoja is going to have over 170 members. So to me, I think numbers do not change. Numbers are the real measuring scale, the litmus paper. And William Ruto, as much as numbers are concerned, he do not have the numbers. And this time round, we anticipate that they are gonna carry themselves with decorum. We know that they have been playing delay tactics, even with this amendment bill, so that if time is not quite kept in check, the parliamentary team will actually be gotten in a time constraint, and that is what they have been aiming at, because they don't have the numbers. But whatever he's saying in the political rallies is actually just to drive perception and hoodwink a few gullible Kenyans into supporting his UDA and presidential agenda, whereas he's the most weakest candidate in the presidential cause. So Miriam, as I conclude, I believe even when they'll be defeated come August this year, they'll be able to concede, because they have started showing signs of not conceding even in parliamentary voting. I submit.
All right, very well, thank you. Sharon, Deputy President, is saying that the problem that we have in this country is dishonest characters who pose as leaders, and that Kenyans had so much to say in response to that. But he's also saying, you know, UDA does have numbers, so now they're waiting, you know, for the other side to bring in the debate tomorrow, as you know, this debate resumes and of the bill in Parliament there. Why is it that these numbers that UDA keep taunting never counts when it's really important for it to count the numbers?
Miriam, you know, it's quite ridiculous when, William Ruto talks about dishonesty, and I would beg the question to, want to even find out, his track record for the period that he has been in office. It is laid out in black and white that there are so many things that he has promised and did not deliver. So as far as and from where I sit, I think that is dishonesty of the highest order, because if you promise to, even give laptops and, state-of-art stadiums and up to date, we have not seen anything, then probably should be calling, he should be at the front line calling himself out. And I think from the look of things, I would tend to say these are signs of someone who has actually conceded defeat. Given that there has been, massive defections of, his key political allies. You saw the other day, Purity Ngirishi is, left, and even the deputy governor of Kisii, and so many others. I believe that is just a tip of an iceberg. And I wish for him, he would actually focus on selling the manifestos and ideologies to the people of Kenya, and, even tell people what he's going to do, or rather what he has actually been able to do, because at the end of the day, the people are the ones who are going to decide, and let him stop actually castigating leaders, because each and every person should actually be given a chance to go out and sell his or her own manifesto to the people, and not just castigating. I believe this is even a new year, and the best he would have done is to even revise his strategy, given that the previous, or rather the strategy that he used in 2021 has not worked out. Yesterday, he was actually calling out the smaller parties to fold and join his party, actually saying that, UDA is a national party. And it begs so many questions. It is a puzzle that even leaves more questions than answers, of someone who actually does not want coalitions, but want people to actually fold their parties and, just join into him. And I've not seen spaces that have been given to people, especially at the UDA. I have not seen spaces for the youth or even other people to serve. So I wonder, how are these people actually going to work? If you tell, small people, or if you start looking down at, these small parties, by telling them to, just fold up their parties and to join you. For me, that is one of the biggest signs of a dictator. And we cannot allow the leadership of this country to be run by a dictator. And just like what my colleagues have said, is that numbers do not translate to votes, because it has been evident before. If he keeps on, stamping and bragging of numbers, but we have not seen, any impact. And I think my colleague panelists have really outlined, so many events about the same. And it's at the end of the day, for me, I believe it's not about how fast, you begin, but the finishing, the finishing line is always the best is what matters. So even as his key political, allies continue to applaud him for the many counties that he has transversed to, they should actually be looking at, the kind of impact that he's putting in place. Is he spreading? What is he spreading? If all we see is the kind of things that we see is the violence from the handout politics and so on and so on and so on. People need to, ask themselves, and especially the people that are, allied to him, the kind of impact that that his campaign is actually costing, because at the end of the day, people say on ground things are different. So I think the reality is that, this political party's bill is actually going to see the light of the day, so that it can also, ensure that it strengthens the kind of loyalty and even strengthen our political parties that I believe have no governance, and we call them, the political vehicles. That's why each and every electioneering period, most of these political leaders have different parties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sharon, for that. And now, because of the interest of time, we really don't have that much time. There's a story here still on page 5, quickly. A case has been filed against the Electoral Agency for revoking rules to control campaign spending by candidates and the parties in the August general election. Katiba Institute and the African Center for Open Governance, AFRICOG, want court to squash the decision by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, to revoke regulations that stipulated caps on financial contributions and spending limits for various elective seats. They say the pause will raise integrity questions, as the Constitution and the Elections Campaign Financing Act provides that IEBC make rules to regulate election campaign financing at least 12 months before a general election. And 7 months to the pause, there are no regulations after the IEBC revoked them following their annulment by the National Assembly in September 28, 2021. Another legal hurdle there for IEBC. The campaign financing. We saw Parliament, I think, voted to remove it, but that was in the Constitution. And so what AFRICOG and this Katiba Institute is now saying that by removing the caps on the financial contributions and spending limitation, these might pose other challenges when it comes to, free, fair, and verifiable elections as we look to go towards our elections. How do you think this will affect our elections at our wish? 30 seconds.
Thank you so much, Miriam. And of course, you understand, Miriam, one thing that has been a very big hurdle and headache in this country when it comes to free, fair, and credible election has been the use of excess monies by politicians. And once this is not regulated, you can understand that politicians are able to bribe voters. They're able to influence the decisions that the voters make on the ballot. And therefore, I think it is something that must be discussed. It's something that we must go back to the drawing board and see how we can put a ceiling on how much politicians are able to use, depending on which seat they are vying for. Because again, when left unchecked, when they play in a unmarked field, like they can spend any amount they wish, Miriam, we may not, after all, get the leaders that we really deserve. We are going to have people who are moneyed, people with deep pockets, compromising the integrity of this election process. So I really support that move by Katiba Institute, that I think it is time IEBC really needs to look into these regulations and rules so that we have a ceiling and a capping in as far as spending by politicians is concerned. I submit.
Thank you. Wasonga, these two institutions are saying that this might raise the lack of regulations when it comes to financing of, the campaigns and all that might, raise some integrity issues.
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And of course, that is what all we've been talking about here. We do not have a very, very capable IEBC or maybe other agencies that can be able to actually clamp down on these people who are overspending money. You find someone like the deputy president going around the country giving 10 millions in one visit, and no one is talking about it. and you realize that money is actually the biggest asset when it comes to campaign. When John F. Kennedy was asked about how he won the election, the American election during that particular year that he came into the office, he said that the number one strategy he used was money, number two was money, and number three was money. So money is everything in the campaigns. So if we have candidates who are overspending this money on the electorate, then they have actually the capability of actually making the elections to go either way. And this is in an unfair way, because you realize even if you are maybe supposed to vote for a particular candidate because you believe in the ideals, but you have a candidate who's coming to give you 50,000 Kenyan shillings to uplift your business, you know, some kind of a bribe. Then as a human being, you might as well maybe think twice, because you are so much indebted to this person that having the independence and the conscience of casting your vote as per the policies that are sold by the politicians becomes really difficult. So when we have William Ruto dishing out millions, 20 millions over the weekend, and the IBC is not talking anything about it, then as a country, then we are moving in a very, very dangerous direction. And therefore, I support this cap on campaign expenditure. And let's have people being disqualified if Chebukati is serious. But all the same, we have to come back to reality that we are living in Kenya, and Wafula Chebukati is the chairman of the IBC. Even as we talk, we do not have any hope, Miriam. Nothing is going to happen. So it just remains a talk. As we talk here, it ends here. I believe nothing is going to happen on that. And that is why Dr. Matsanga always says, we are not ready for these elections, because even if we go for the elections, the chairman of the IBC has already bungled these elections. He has already done things that cannot guarantee free, fair, and credible elections. So to me, I think even talking won't help as much.
All right, very well. Thank you so much. Sharon, please conclude for us.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And of course, my colleague panelists have talked in length about this whole issue, and probably if I could backtrace on an issue that Tawish has raised about, the voters' bribery, and this is something that has been actually an outcry. I remember probably 2 weeks ago when there was two by-elections, one in Taita Taveta and the other one in Kiagu, and of course one of the instances the UDA had their way, but the truth is that they were at the brigade of the UDA were actually seen hanging around, and the word has it that they were actually buying votes from voters. And so I think when you talk about the issue of voter bribery and in essence also trying to the issue of leadership and integrity, whereby if someone can buy their way to power, and when they actually get to power, they show their true colors. They are all about they're all about their own interests, and not looking at the issues of the common mwananchi. And then also looking at the other hand, I believe it's also going to discourage the upcoming youths. I mean, because they do not have the financial muscle or the briefcase to actually give their way to power. So I hope just like Sean has said, this actually gets into an arena of action and not just empty rhetorics, because we are so good at talking, but when it comes to implementation, it becomes a mirage. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And that is where we come to the end of our show this morning. I'm afraid we will not get into the African part because we started a bit late. We had a bit of some technical hitch, and we have to give way for another show that is coming up. We shall be looking at Zimbabwe and Africa and what that might look like in 2022. Thank you, Daniel Besonga, Samuel Tawish, and Sharon Gitonga. My name is Miriam Ogutu. This has been Kenya and Africa at a glance, except we just looked at Kenya, but we shall look at Africa much later on in the course of the day. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in a bit. Don't go too far. Bye-bye for now.